a Hall of Fame voter, Howard Balzer, now on Rockin' Minooch with Jimmy B on ESPN 620.
That's right. Howard joins us now on the Right to It Again side. How we doing, Howard? Happy New Year to you.
Happy New Year to you. Happy new landing spot. And hope that 2025 is a great year for everybody.
We appreciate that very much. So we want to talk Cardinals offseason. And I know defensive end, edge rusher has been the talk. That seems to be a very popular position. But I want to get your thoughts on a running mate with Harrison Jr. I mean, someone out there's a really good list of free agent wide receivers out there. I'd just love to get your take on that.
I'm glad you asked that because I think that is crucial for the offense. Like you said, whatever you want to call it, a running mate, whatever it is. Yeah. I mean, I think we all love Michael Wilson. I'm not convinced that he's a true number 2 guy. He'd be great in the number 3 role, along with Greg Dortch, bringing him back in the slot. But having a real quality number 2 guy, I think would really upgrade the offense. Now, whether that comes in free agency, you mentioned, T. Higgins. Yeah. Looks like he's going to be a free agent. There's always excellent players in the draft. And this year will be no different. And where the Cardinals are picking, there'll be probably some very good receivers. I mean, heck, look at a guy like Brian Thomas, who was the 4th receiver taken in the first round by Jacksonville, and he ended up putting up some obviously very impressive numbers as a rookie. So I'm not saying that's the number 1 need, but if you were to look at the offense and say, what does the offense really need? I think it's that. And I think it's also a potential upgrade on the offensive line. I don't know, what happens with Will Hernandez. He's going to be a free agent coming off a serious knee injury. Jonah Williams signed only a 2-year deal because of previous knee injuries. And what happened? He suffered 2 more. So I'm not convinced that he'll be back. So I think that right side of the offensive line is something that they'll be looking at also when it comes to the offense in the offseason.
Yeah, I think you nailed it. I talked about that the other day. This offense needs some juice. They need that home run hitter. They don't have that true home run hitter that can explode it on one particular play. And I think you're right on with somebody that can really expand the offense deep to underneath and have that capability on any kind of pass play.
And look at the teams right now that are in the playoffs. When you look at Minnesota with Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison. Is it Jordan or whatever? Yeah, I think it was Jordan. You look at even the Rams with Cooper Kupp, who's a little bit up there in years, and Puka Nacua. Look at these top teams, and so having 2 receivers, I think, is very, very, very important. And I don't think there's any doubt it's going to be something they'll look at. The question is, where do they get that guy? Do you want to invest free agent dollars in that player, or do you go back into the draft and get a guy that you feel that you can develop along with Harrison?
Howard Balzer is our guest on the Right Toyota Guest Line. Howard, at the beginning of the year, we all kind of picked how many wins they would get. And it went from 7 wins to 9 wins. And if they did that, we thought, that would be a really nice improvement over the previous 4-win season. But then everybody got teased. And at the break on the bye week, it was 6-4, leading the division, and it went to hell in a handbasket. So do you still feel that it was a successful season by the improvement of the wins that they got, or are you bummed because it ended the way that it did?
Well, I think you can have both, with that. And I think that disappointment was there because it was right there for them, to take control of. And you had that 3-game stretch, especially with the 2 games against Seattle and then Minnesota sandwiched in between, that they weren't able to find a way to win. And so you can definitely look at that and say, yeah, disappointing. But in the big picture, you have to look at it and say, a team that was still affected by injury, but a team that still found a way to win 8 games. And the other thing about it is this, guys. The Cardinals got to that 6-4 spot by winning 3 really close games. Last-minute field goals. At that point, they were 3-2 on the season in one-score games. Then, in the home stretch, they lost 3 close games. And so, all of a sudden, they fall to 3-5 overall. And you're not going to be under 500 in one-score games in this league most of the time and have a winning record. So it comes down to having those key players who can make plays at crucial times, not have penalties at crucial situations, and win those close games. I mean, Minnesota has won a bushelful of one-score games. Kansas City is 11-0 this year in one-score games. So that's what happened down the stretch, and especially the Minnesota game. The whole thing would have looked differently if they didn't lose that 19-6 lead and had managed to win that game, but they didn't. And so it shows that they are getting better. I think they are getting closer, but it also shows what you have to be able to do if you're going to win those games and truly be a playoff team.
You look at Kyler Murray this year, Howard, and you look at, okay, made the season, survived the season. What is it this organization feels about him? Is it just getting more weapons from him, more growth, more development? What's kind of the thought process at the Cardinals complex in reference to moving forward with Kyler Murray?
Yeah, no, I think it's a great question. And I think you hit on something that I think
3 minutes.
This is the first season that Kyler Murray has been with the Cardinals, aside from his rookie year, although he was bothered by a little bit of a hamstring in that season, even though he didn't miss games. But every other year he missed games and had injury issues. This year he did not, was able to play all 17 games. So I don't think that can be, dismissed and overlooked. But overall, in the big picture, he has to get better, no doubt about it. But everyone around him has to be better. And everyone says, well, he had the ball in his hand for all these drives at the end of the games, and they weren't able to win. Well, this isn't tennis or golf, right? You can't do it yourself. You have to have guys get open. You have to have the running, the offensive line for the for the running game. The offensive line protecting him. Not having penalties. Hey, I go back to that Minnesota game. I'm pretty sure that was the one where they had first and goal from the 5-yard line, where a touchdown gives them
2 minutes
and maybe clinches the game, and they had a false start on first down from a rookie tight end, Tip Ryman. So you can't have those things in critical situations when you need scores to find a way to win games. So, like I said, to me, the whole thing about quarterbacks, well, they get the credit when you win, and they get the blame when you lose. That's just the way it is. Well, why is it that way? It doesn't have to be that way. You can look at it analytically and say, well, this is why a lot of things happen. And yes, some of it was Kyler, but there's also an awful lot of things that went around him, that happened around him, that also ended up losing some of those close games that would have made the season different.
Howard, thank you as always. It's going to be an interesting offseason, as it always is with the Arizona Cardinals, especially when we start talking about Kyler Murray too. And you think this will be the last year for him as a Cardinal?
Well, I'm not going to. I hear people say,
1 minute.
This is a boom or bust year. If they don't make the playoffs or win a game in the playoffs, then you move on from Kyler Murray. Well, how can you say that in advance? You have to see what happens.
Sure.
If they're in the playoffs and they play a good game in the first round against a really good team and they lose, and he plays pretty well, you don't just say, okay, we're going to change our quarterback, because who are you going to change it to? So, but I do think it's an important year for him and the entire offense to take the next step from what they did this year, which overall, it wasn't bad, it wasn't great, it was middle of the road, and you have to be better than that.
Howard, thank you, buddy. Appreciate it.
All right, guys, take care.
You can follow him on Twitter at hbalzer721. Comes to us today thanks to All City Towing, just down the street here in Tempe. You can join the team at the largest towing company in the state. That is All City Towing. If you're looking for a new career, then head to allcitytowing.com and search careers. That's right, allcitytowing.com. All City Towing, where your future is on the move. Coming up, you're going to hear from Charles Barkley as